So first, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. There's a great turnout, and I actually wrote that line last night knowing that there'd be a great turnout for him because I felt confident that he touched the lives of many. My dad was a caring, funny person, easily, connected with others. As was said earlier, he never met a stranger. He never met a stranger. I'm sure each of you has a memory of humor or compassion, maybe both, maybe many. But just quick introduction. I'm Darin, Doug's youngest and favorite son. I'm the one up here. But it's only fair because he was my favorite dad. I'll say just because it's kind of been a theme, I too am not a singer. I consider myself musically reclined. I like to lean back and listen to it, and I'm told others appreciate that. So, and I do say with great sincerity, not as eloquently as Paul to the Thessalonians, but any mourning here today is purely for selfish reasons. My dad has been waiting for this his entire life. He very vocally, and he was convinced that the rapture would come first, but here we are. Hopefully it hasn't. So I may display some selfishness during this. I spoke at my mom's funeral as well, and I know that it's easier to practice than it is to give it. So practicing went fine. We'll see how this goes. He was always my favorite dad, but I was in 5th grade when I realized I had a great dad. I got in a fight at school, principal's office, broken glasses, yada, yada. In fact, I got in a second fight that day because I was beating myself up all day for getting in the first fight. So now my parents had divorced at that time. My dad had custody of us, and so I was alone at home, waiting for him to come home and find out what was in store for myself. And of course, he came home late that night, so I had a longer time to sit and wait and figure out what was going to happen. But when he came home, he asked me, "So how was your day?" Now, the principal called him while I was in the office, so I knew he was playing coy. So I explained myself and, of course, emphasized my gallantry. But then he said, "Well, there's nothing I could do to you that would be worse than what you've done to yourself all day." He knew me, so he said, "Now, on the other hand, if it had been Joel..." This taught me that equal isn't always fair, which served me well in my Air Force career and now as a small business owner. In Scouts, I would seek him out on campouts or during summer camp if I was starting to feel a little homesick, and it just took a moment with him to be comforted and rejuvenated and able to go back to whatever I was doing. In fact, other guys in Scouts would come to me and say, "Hey, your dad's really cool." I know. There were even some guys who would shadow him, I believe wishing that he was their dad, but anyway. I know I wouldn't have gotten Eagle Scout without his support. Now, I can't place anything specifically as a source for this because it's kind of an internal thing that you don't see in others, but after talking with Joel, both he and I took away from my dad that you can enjoy anything as long as you make a game of it or come at it with a creative eye. There's nothing too tedious that you can't make a game of it. An example for me was when I was my first job was as a sacker in a grocery store. I would imagine a game of Tetris, putting all the frozen things in one bag, all the heavy things at the bottom, dashing back and forth between lanes and only stopping to help somebody out to the car. He always attended Joel's and my sporting events. I remember one wrestling match where I had a contact pop out, and the referee, my opponent, and I were all looking around on the mat, my dad from the stands goes, "There it is!" And fortunately, he came out and got it because we were just standing there looking like cats chasing a laser pointer. But it didn't really have a lesson, but it's something that always pops up in my mind. I probably should have said earlier, maybe you caught it from Greg too, but Overstreet men come with a quirky sense of humor and a dashing hairline like this. But there are 5 or 6 of us here who can prove that. So. And then as a single parent, I learned a lot of things from him as well when he was a single parent, not me. But I learned that there's no such thing as women's work or men's work, just things that need to be done. Just like you said, helping out in the kitchen, washing dishes, whatever. You get in there, roll your sleeves up, and start helping. So sorry, guys, the cat's out of the bag now. Just remember, dark's going colored, or dark's going cold. So, yeah. So my dad handled fatherhood so gracefully. It seemed like he had been, practicing an entire life. And as my Uncle Greg said, maybe he had. If there were 2 words I could say to him now, and I did say this to him while he was alive, so I didn't miss out on that. But if there are 2 things I could say to him, 2 words I could say to him right now, it'd be thank you. Thank you for teaching me how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to treat other passengers on this journey of life. So, thank you.